Welcome to the Lyvely Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Catudal. Today, joined by Harri Pereira, who is a performance coach. And before I go too deep into this introduction, I will be straight up. I don't know much about you, Harri. I've heard great things, and I would like to know more about what a performance coach really means. You know, like give me the meat of it. Like, what does a day in your life look like working with your clients? And how did you get here to become a performance coach?
Well, firstly, you said my surname very well, probably better than I say my own surname. So that's awesome.
Portuguese or Brazilian?
Portuguese.
Okay, yeah. I lived in Brazil for a while. So
okay.
Pereira, everyone is Pereira.
Do you speak Portuguese?
Yeah, eu falo pouco.
Better than me. So there you go. So performance coach. It's an interesting question to start with, really, because only of recent, I've actually changed my title, which is an arbitrary title in the world of coaching because it's unregulated, it's not ruled and governed by any specific parties. So I've called myself a mindset coach for the last 3 or 4 years, like a health coach, mindset coach. But recently I had like quite a big breakthrough, and it's like, look, I've done a lot of work with a lot of people in many different facets of their life, personal life, health, business, relationships, even the deeper stuff of like I guess psychology or the depths of their traumas, right?
That's a big spectrum.
It's breaching on the line of getting into therapy, which obviously I have to be careful with. I mean, I've done my fair share of development and hypnosis and behavior change and NLP. Where I'm going with this is that I had a bit of a breakthrough. It's like, why do people want a good mindset? Like, people seem to come to me and be like, Harri, you've got such a good mindset. Like, you seem so driven, ambitious. You seem to just be really consistent and motivated. Well, this is natural for me. This is easy for me. And it's like, well, why do people want that? It's not for mindset's sake. It's not just to have a good mindset. So I thought about, like, why do I want a good mindset? And well, I want a good mindset because I want to be successful in my business. I want to have good relationships. I want to have a really good physique and health. So it's like, you want a good mindset for a purpose. And although I was doing great work with my clients, I got lost in mindset and I guess you could say like the deeper stuff, spirituality. And I brought myself back down to earth, really, and be like, well, actually, what I do is I help people perform on a better level on a more consistent basis in their personal life, in their health, and in their business.
There's a lot to unpack there, and that's super interesting. I'm really thrilled we're having this conversation, by the way, because I had no idea that you had this package of tools clearly, right? So you just named like NLP, right? You touch on the spirituality element. That's pretty rare in coaching, I'll be honest. I've been a coach for the 15 years of my life as well. And then you have the physical health, you have the mental health, you have the emotional health, like you said, trauma. This is vast, right? One thing that just stuck out to me really in what you just told me is, like you said, it comes easy to me. Now, when you say it comes easy to me, is that because you've trained so much for it? Or is it just because you feel like I'm lucky, you know, like I just have this mindset? Like, can you run me through that? Because I sometimes struggle with that myself when I have this, what I would consider, a strong mindset. But I didn't always, right? So I had to really develop to get here. So when you say it comes easy, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I think it does come easy because of what I've been through. And I think that a lot of people who maybe have been through, I know that you've been through a fair amount yourself. And I think, I mean, look, I'm split in two minds, right? So a part of me is like, what I've been through has shaped who I am and has allowed me to step into my best self and my best mindset. But then I do think that there's a part of it is like, before I even had a choice of who I wanted to become, this was the way I was wired. And okay, look, let's look at genetics, let's look at upbringing, let's look at culture, everything, my environment, my parents, etc. So I definitely think it's a bit of both. Some people are not given the best opportunities. As a child, I was given great opportunities. But what I do believe is that as I got older, my mindset completely changed because of what I went through.
We're going to have to talk about what you went through, by the way, because I have no idea. So carry on, but let's touch on that if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So it was 3 years ago, my mum passed away. So she was 57, 56, 57. And 8 years prior, she got diagnosed with cancer for the first time. So it was an 8 to 10 year battle with cancer, right? So that was essentially like that period of my life. And I don't think it was it was really tough for me, but I think it was made harder because of my younger brother, who's 8 years younger than me. So I felt a deep sense of responsibility, and my mum and dad were together the whole time until my mum passed away, obviously, right? So we were a family, and obviously that key piece of your family is ripped away. Then it's just my dad, myself, and my younger brother. So like I felt that deep sense of responsibility. To say that I didn't have a good mindset before that would be a lie. I definitely did. So it was somewhat natural or somewhat worked or practiced in certain environments. Actually, no, just to touch on that a little bit, because I think what I realized when I was around 18, 19, so 10 years ago, I realized that I was deeply insecure, deeply anxious, not very confident at all. And I would, quite frankly, like be petrified of speaking in front of people and even meeting new people. So I realized I had a real big gap in like my social or my emotional intelligence, my social competence. I felt a little bit inept in certain situations. So I was like, I noticed a gap. So I did work on it, right? So I read a lot of books, did a lot of learning. I went to uni, whatever. So there was a process of like, this is actioned, practiced.
Yeah.
But when this happened, well, in fact, I was at the same age. I was 19, when my mum got diagnosed with cancer. So it was kind of around the same time. So it's all kind of come into one. And that whole journey of the last 10 years has brought me to where I am now. So the reason I say it's easy is because I feel like certain things that I do in my day, certain challenges, fitness, that stuff does feel easy. Not to do it, but to decide to do it. So before, I say to people like, have the audacity to do something really difficult or to do the hard thing. You don't need to like believe in yourself 100%. Like there's only a tiny bit of you that's going to believe it. But like I've spoken at my mum's funeral. I've watched my brother speak at my mum's funeral. I've watched her take her last breath. I've spoken in front of hundreds of people like PwC. I've done lots of cool things and difficult things and things that have really made me question myself and put me into absolute dismay, right? So everything else kind of seems a little bit easy.
I love that. Well, first of all, my sincere condolences for what you went through, losing your mother. We have a lot of similarities, more than I thought.
Yeah.
I lost my father when I was 17 and he was 47. And I have a brother who's 6 years younger as well. And I do, now that you say that, I do feel like I took on a mature responsibility for the well-being that my father couldn't, provide because he was gone. I do feel like there's an accelerated living experience in that regard, right? So I completely hear where you're coming from. Wow, there's a lot to unpack there. And how do you go about coaching someone who either has or hasn't been through a situation like that? Maybe they haven't lost someone, but they feel the insecurity. They feel the anxiety around either performing in front of people or just communicating socially. Like you said, that emotional intelligence. I don't know how your awareness came, because you said you evaluated that. You said, I am anxious. I am, I'm not going to say socially awkward, but you felt this, you felt inept in your words. And then you got into books and you got into, so you had this awareness and you took action. As a coach, as a performance coach, how do you work with someone when they say, I'm aware, but what are the next steps?
When people say they're aware, they're not usually aware.
Interesting.
So they know the thing is present. So that you could be like, look, I'm anxious in social situations, or I'm riddled with anxiety when I step in front of people and I'm about to talk, or I can't be consistent with my health and weight loss journey. So like they're aware of the problem. They know what the problem is, in fact. But I think deep awareness, real awareness, is a level of understanding that not many people get to. So I do truly believe when you are look, I'm going to put arbitrary numbers on this, but like you're 80, 90, 100% aware, change is easy. Or, okay, not easy because it takes a lot of work, but it's simple. It's like, okay, I know
the solution
exactly
is there.
Exactly.
The solution is there.
Exactly that.
Totally agree.
So really, my job is not to picture or draw out the solution for them. It's to make them more aware. The solution is there. Like, I don't have to. I'm not like the person who has all the answers for everyone. It's like I don't have all these solutions that people can just like, oh, I'll take that one. I'll use that one and I'll try that. It's like I have that, and I have methods, and I have principles, and there's lots of different strategies, systems that I use with clients to get better results, to improve their confidence, to improve their leadership, their communication, their health. That's a big focus: health, mental fitness. Ultimately, the more aware you are of your situation, the easier the change will become.
Agreed completely. And that actually brings me to something I'm glad we're talking about right now is you can have all the tools. You know, you can have the guru telling you all of the steps of what to do, right? And you can have all the high-end biohacking, tools and processes and the methods. But if you don't have the awareness of why you're doing what you're doing, it's going to be a circle of always trying to find something that's going to fix something. Whereas what will fix something is the awareness. Let's strip that apart. How do you get to the performance? Would you say it starts with the awareness?
Yeah, well, it has to, because you have to know that you have a problem. But when you look at high performance, which is essentially what I do, because I work with a lot of, I want to actually separate the two words, high achievers and high performers, right? I don't know if I read this somewhere or listened to someone say it, so I apologize if I'm stealing their great concept, but it's a great concept, right? High achievers are people who set themselves a goal. They do everything necessary to achieve that goal, and oftentimes everything will be sacrificed along the way to achieving that goal. That's someone who is a high achiever. You could say many of the top athletes are high achievers. They more than likely will sacrifice a lot, especially social life, maybe family, maybe relationships, in order to get that success. You have to, right? High performers, granted, high achievers are high performers, but a high performer is someone who sets themselves the goal, achieves the goal, but doesn't allow things to be left on the back seat along the way. Maybe it's health, maybe it's family, maybe it's finances, whatever it is, right? So bringing in performance is more holistic, in my opinion. Like that could be totally wrong, totally, people may disagree, but that is what my opinion of a high performer is. Yeah,
I really like that.
So it's like having all bases covered. Maybe you're not going to be that high achiever who is the top 0.1%, because you probably can't. I don't believe the likes of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, maybe Ronaldo. To be honest, Ronaldo's got it he's done pretty well, and he is my idol. So I'll let him slide.
Respect.
But I don't believe you can be that successful if you are a high performer, because you've got to put your focus in a lot of different areas. But I don't know, it's up to debate.
No, I like that. I like the separation of the two.
Yeah.
One comes with more sacrifices and whatever it takes,
Yes.
I guess you would say, right? I want that achievement. I want that goal. I want that outcome. Yeah. I don't care what I have to do to get there. My health might be sacrificed. My personal relationships might be sacrificed. I'm getting that goal. Yep. Whereas a high performer, you can classify that as someone who takes a more holistic approach. Someone who says, I want that goal, but I also want this quality of life to come with me, essentially. Like, yes. I like who I am. I like, the life I'm building for myself. I want to perform. I want to, work towards something, but I don't want to make these sacrifices.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think a high performer recognizes that happiness isn't necessarily associated with relentlessly achieving high expectations and things.
Amen.
Yeah. So where I was going with that in terms of the performance, I think most people don't get past basic level functioning, or they don't get past like what you could say it's like a homeostatic level where things are just okay. Some people are just way below that, and they can't even get past that. They can't even get to a place where things are just here. So high performance is not your problem. Like you don't need to chase high performance. Yeah. So it's like you're trying to run before you can walk. Yep. So really, like, it's actually, some people are 30, 40 kilos overweight, and they're trying to do all this other stuff.
Yeah, the LED red therapy and all the biohacking, right?
Yeah.
It's like just squat and eat clean, man.
Yeah,
Let's start there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of my time, sometimes, depending on the client, of course, is actually just looking at, okay, well, what is really bad right now? Like, what is the biggest monster? Because let's get that up to an okay point. From there, then we can look at, like, what is high performance for you? What does that look like?
Love that.
And how can we get there?
Very individualized. I like that, because you're right. Everyone's at a different starting point, right?
Yes.
And everyone has a different definition of high performance and success even. So I love that. So one thing, loving this conversation, by the way, and I'm understanding more about what high performance really means in your world of coaching.
Yeah.
So now, the one thing I do know about you is that you have not only this coaching business, but you've collaborated with someone else who does something similar. Can you just tell me a little bit more about that? Because what I heard is that you are working with someone else who does something similar. Again, as a coach for over 15 years, coaching is not a collaborative business. Traditionally, right? A lot of coaches have a scarcity mindset when it comes to their business and their clients, right? Yeah. There's only a finite amount of clients. If there's so many people doing what I'm doing, there's going to be less clients, which is not true, right? You have your niche, you have your personal message, you have your personal story that will resonate with clients, and there is no shortage of clientele, right? But tell me how this came about, and what do you guys do together from a business perspective, and how does that enhance the coaching that you do?
Those things that you spoke about there, there's only a finite amount of clients. People are gonna go to that person and not me, whatever, right? They're all limiting beliefs, and essentially that's part of what I do, right? So it's the mindset and it's the performance. So it's mindset and action. What do we need to get to? What do we need to do to get to your goal? What do you need to let go of to get to your goal? And that's mindset wise, right? So essentially, like, that is just a limiting belief that there is so many people in the world and even in your country, your city, that need your help if you're a coach, right? So like, I totally agree. Like, coaching is more of an isolated endeavor. You don't need employees. You need to outsource. You need to delegate, but you don't need employees. You don't need a team. You can do it on your own, and you can be very successful on your own. You can make a big impact. You can build a great community. I had that vision at one point in my life. I valued freedom. I valued, like, that kind of, not a Bali lifestyle, but I wanted that level of freedom and to kind of live life on my own terms. I've always wanted that, and I've got that. But what I really want to do, and what I want to do on a bigger scale, is actually have a much bigger impact and a better impact. And I mean, look, we don't need to go into how me and Joe got introduced, but his name's Joe Cotton, by the way, for everyone listening. He's a great coach. We work together because he has a very similar message. I feel like we're very different people, which is, I think, our biggest asset as a partnership. So when we got introduced, we met up, we trained, and then it wasn't like, right, okay, how can we work together? How can we put a business plan together, and how can we do this and create some amazing impact? It really happened naturally. I think I got offered an opportunity to do an event or something like that. It was last year, and I was like, I could do this on my own, or I could partner with Joe and we could do something really cool. And I was getting a lot of these opportunities, and I was like, you know what, like, to me, like, look, I want to be someone who is very wealthy, very successful, all of that, right? I want to have the finer things in life.
High achiever.
High achiever, that's it. Yeah.
And a high performer.
High achiever and a high performer.
I love it.
So I want all the finer things in life. But right now, like, having an amazing income or having the most amount of money for myself is not a priority if I can create a better and a bigger impact by partnering and giving away 50% of the money we get from events and collabs. So I was like, I just spotted an opportunity. I was running my own podcast at the time. I'd only done like 12 episodes. So I was like, let's run the podcast together. Let's do the events together. Nice. And we can still be our own coaches. Perhaps we'll get to a point where we're running the business together, and that is probably coming into fruition now. But at the moment, we're running events, we're doing talks. We did one last weekend with Cyro Hotel, amazing facility, and we're running the podcast together. And they're two really exciting projects, the events and the podcast, that I love outside of doing one-to-one coaching. And that is genuinely what I think is going to make us so different from other coaches.
Yeah, so I love that, by the way. And from my experience, so I'm looking at this it's a business, right? So you have your independent individual coaching business. Joe has his.
Yes.
Now, when you join forces, and what the best part about it is you never know where it's going to go, but you know when you get two smart people together, you have 2 times the impact. Like you use the word impact, which I love, but also as a founder who has a brilliant co-founder myself, that complementing dynamic, we couldn't be more different, my co-founder and I. So that gives us range, right? That gives us opportunities that I wouldn't be able to get on my own and she wouldn't be able to get on her own. But combined, right, the world just opens up. So I think that, again, that does show that as a performance coach, you do have very, a world-class mindset, as they say, because just that thought process is like, okay, I want to make a bigger impact. How do I do that, right? The logical thing is you form an alliance. You find someone else, then you can really, double your impact. Yeah. So I love that. And so do you guys right now, do you know where you're going to take this? Or is it kind of, we're doing it and the path shall unfold?
I have a vision and I've definitely shared that vision. But I think at the moment it's more of like, we want to get in front of people. We want to do. Look, there was a few years ago. It scared the hell out of me to stand in front of people and talk.
Been there.
So this is like my biggest focus. Is I want to get in front of people. I want to get in front of loads of people, and because I know that Joe and I have a really incredible and powerful message, because it's not just like the Alex Hormozi style, like relentlessly take action, which I love, by the way. Alex Hormozi is incredible and amazing, take really good value. But with Alex Hormozi, if you have his mindset, or if you have a mindset similar to him, he's great. If you have a mindset where you're just riddled with anxiety and insecurity, it's not so good.
It's not actionable.
No.
Yeah.
So it's like when you bring those things together, not many coaches are doing that in the health industry. Not many people are doing it in the business industry, in the world of business. So I think we have a really powerful message. So at the moment, all I'm looking to do is get our brand, our names out there and get in front of people. The vision, there is a vision, but it's more of like that's like a bigger overarching place. Yeah. That, to be honest, like, it's going to change. Yeah. So I'm just happy with what we're doing right now.
Very good point. In fact, I'll again relate that to a personal story is, when you first start out, you may have assumptions of where this will go, but it's actually your community, it's your clients that will dictate where this goes. Because you'll find that you had an assumption about a direction or an interest, and you'll find from customer feedback that interest just isn't as big as you thought. But then you may find, oh wow, we have a huge opportunity here, and then you need to be flexible and adapt and go that direction. I love that.
When you partnered with your co-founder, did you feel like you had similar, like, let's say, values or vision? Or
we definitely had similar values, similar vision for the impact that we wanted to have, and the business took shape from the grander vision of the impact we wanted to have. And we're like, okay, well, how can we make that impact? We're going to need to build this business. Yes. And that business now is going along very well. But again, we are so fundamentally different in our skill set. So values shared, skill set completely different. She comes from a lifetime corporate background. I come from a lifetime self-employed coach, freelancer, entrepreneur background. So you put those two together, and you're unstoppable, right? So that is, that's something I feel very blessed for, is linking the two complementing but very different people together, and just watch what you can do, because it's remarkable.
I love what you did there as well. Like you reversed engineered the whole process. Like you looked at like the impact, and then you brought it back to, what do we have to build? Okay, this is a mechanism to get to that impact. I put a post up yesterday about goal setting, and this could be quite controversial to a lot of people, but I do believe that if you set yourself a clear goal and you're making progress towards that goal, that will, I'm careful with my language here, that will reduce so much of people's depression or mental issues, mental problems, right?
Progress.
If you're making progress towards that goal. Yes. Wow. I genuinely believe that will help a lot of people's mental battles, depression, anxiety, because you've got direction, you've got clarity, and you're building something. Like I wrote about how we're teleological beings, right? We are purpose driven. So without meaning and without making progress towards something greater than ourselves, you do feel lost. And I think that a lot of people label themselves as depressed and anxious when really they just don't have any clear goals.
100% agree with you on that one. Now that brings me to a question, because I encountered this many times as a coach myself. Now, I never considered myself, by the way, a performance coach or even a mindset coach. I was purebred fitness and nutrition, right? Yeah. Now, I wove mindset into that because you can't have success in fitness and nutrition without having the mindset there, right? But what I did find, and you really kind of nailed this one, is I would be training people who are very successful on paper, mid 40s, 50s, kind of had it all, right? The great job, the money, family, but they weren't satisfied and they didn't feel fulfilled. And then you started to see either destructive behaviors or anxiety or just feeling like depression. I'm like, how can, from the outsider looking in, you're like, but you have this, you're checking all the boxes, but they didn't have purpose, right? So I'm starting to see a massive shift in the consciousness of people who want to do something they actually love. Yes. Not just a job to get paid because it has a nice title and a nice paycheck, but people are risking that and putting that aside to say, I'm going to be a yoga teacher. I'm going to do something I love. And I think that's profound. I think that shift is here. So my question to you is, are you working with people in a similar situation? Or maybe I just attracted that type of clientele. I don't know. But are you working with people who are kind of having that epiphany in their 40s, 50s and saying, what am I doing?
Most of my clients.
Really?
Most people that I have ever worked with are in that position. I think a lot of people will lie to themselves and they'll say that they've got even when they come onto a coaching relationship, they lie to themselves and they're like, everything's sweet. I just want to do this. I just want to like sort my organization or priorities or productivity out. It's BS. Yeah. Like it's BS. There's a bigger underlying problem. And sometimes we get into that. Sometimes they just don't want to go down there. And the people that don't want to go down there are going to be people who live the rest of their lives having that niggling feeling or thought that they didn't quite do what they were supposed to do. They didn't quite live. I don't like to say to their full potential because I don't actually believe that to be something that is possible, but they don't quite create the fulfillment or live the best life that they could.
Would you say, and wrapping back to what you said before, which I missed touching on, would you say they avoided the discomfort that you see is necessary for growth?
Yes, 100%.
Could we actually touch on that again? What is your advice or what is your process to a client that doesn't like to be uncomfortable?
I was going to say just throw them in there. But
yeah. That's throw them in the ocean, see if they could swim.
Yeah, I won't be getting any clients from this podcast. And we're like, depending on the person I'm sitting in front of, right? Like if you were a client, right, and we were working together, we started working, and I could tell like you were really scared of like going down that avenue. But I knew that 100% you trusted me. You liked what we were doing already. There was that rapport, there was that trust, there was that genuine relationship. I would probably like throw you in it somehow in a way that was productive, like push you down the avenue of get uncomfortable and then you're going to find a way if I trusted that you'd get out of it, right? And we are talking quite high level, so I'm going to try and give examples. So I don't want to like go over people's heads, but let's use a fitness session, right? If you were someone who had never been to the gym, which clearly you're not, right? You're in great shape. But if you were someone who never went into the gym, an example of that, if I'd ticked all the boxes in terms of that rapport, that trust, like I just mentioned, something that I could do is like, I'd be like, meet me for a coffee at this place, and it would be in a gym, and then I would take them into the gym, and then they would step foot in the gym if they'd never stepped foot in the gym before in my life.
So you'd trick them,
essentially. Like there would be a time where that could be very productive. So this is just like a method. Like people you're gonna get thrown into situations if you're really scared of getting uncomfortable, and I know that it's going to benefit you. I literally had a conversation with my client this morning who I've just started working with. I'm not going to say details because it's all confidential, but I said to him, like, look, there was a point in the conversation he got triggered, and he literally said to me, because I interrupted him, he doesn't like being interrupted, and he literally said to me, you really triggered me then. I felt my back like literally pop up like that. And I said, look, firstly, amazing that you stopped yourself. You bit your tongue. You didn't say anything. Secondly, the fact that you've just mentioned that to me like 30 seconds later. So it means you've already kind of just got off, like settled the emotion. And thirdly, like, look, I said, if you're open, I said, I'm going to trigger you, like intentionally and unintentionally. So I know that it's for your benefit. And as long as you know that I'm doing it for your benefit, it's going to be fine. And I said that is a level of trust that if we have that in our coaching sessions, you're going to do so well. So, I mean, that's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's cool. It's
wow,
cool.
Wow.
But there is, of course, there's people where I'm like, I'm not quite sure about the personality of this person. Maybe they're not going to take it well. I wouldn't trick them. I've never done that, by the way. That was like an example that came to my head.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to be a good one or a bad one.
You should try it though. You should try it.
I might actually. I might. But there will be people who we don't have that trust yet. Maybe we don't have that level of rapport. Maybe I'm not quite sure how they would react to something. And I'd test the waters. Like how sometimes it's questioning, like how can you take one step towards that uncomfortable place? Right. A lot of the time, people, and I think it was actually Joe who said this analogy to me, but when people are so riddled with negativity or a negative mindset or intrusive thoughts, pervasive thoughts, so much like negativity and such pervasive stories, they're trying to talk affirmations into the mirror and be super positive, right? They're going from here to here. But if you were to look at a ladder, the rungs on a ladder, right? You don't go from the first one to the top. You go from the first one to the second one, to the second one, to the third one, to the fourth one, blah, 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 up to the top, right? So when you're riddled with all this negativity, don't look over here and what's like super positive, a 180 flip. Look at what's 1% better. Like what's one tiny thing better that you could do to get towards this place, but it's not quite there yet. Because that's your next step.
That's profound, but that's hard to do, and that's exactly why you need a coach.
Exactly.
So I've been at the bottom of the ladder, and I've looked at the top, and I'm like, I just want to be there. And you try everything just to get there, right? But if you're not willing to take each step by step, you're just going to keep falling. I love that. Yeah, that's the power of hiring a coach, honestly.
Yeah. So you have that place of comfort, you have that place of discomfort, but let's say success or your goal, because we know that on the other side of your discomfort is your goals or is a better life, whatever. You don't have to go straight there. Like, for example, let's use the example with the gym. If you've never stepped foot in a gym and you want to start training and exercising, let's lose some weight so that you maybe feel more confident going into the gym. Let's do some running outside or walking outside. Let's do some body weight exercises. Let's do some lift weights in your home. Like, let's just take one step. Like I talk about chunking a lot. Chunk down the goal.
Agreed. Lay the foundation. Wow. So everything you're saying now is leading me to, I have a very clear picture now of what you do and how you do it. And I love it, by the way. So congrats on that. What you do, it takes a very confident person too, to be, you're 29? Yeah. 29. I'm thinking about 29-year-old me. I'm like, man, 29-year-old me would not even feel confident enough to be coaching people on their mindset and their trauma and their emotions, because I was still going through my own at that point. I was on my own journey. So loving what you're doing. And now I want to know, you mentioned at the beginning NLP. Like you obviously have this toolkit. You have these different modalities that you've learned along the way that you've probably used for yourself. I'm very fascinated in NLP and hypnosis. It's been a big part of my own healing journey from trauma, from destructive behaviors and habits, to feeling a lot more empowered and spiritually connected, we can say, and understanding the power of the mind and manifestation for better or worse, right? Because we're all master manifestors for the good and for the bad, right? We have to take ownership for that and responsibility. But NLP and hypnosis was a big part of my journey. How do you do like full-on immersion sessions? Like, do you put people in hypnosis? Do you do NLP? Or do you weave it into the way that you work? Do you know what I mean? Or do you separate it as a modality? Say, okay, this session, we're going to do NLP.
No, yeah. So I don't separate it. I weave it in to my coaching, because I'm only level one qualified in hypnotherapy. So I'm doing that process. Nice. I've done practitioner and master prac in NLP, so I've done both of those, completed those. Although I do believe you've got to do that multiple times. And my mentors used to say to me, like, by the way, you know, this stuff you've got to do multiple times. And we always used to joke, be like, yeah, you just want our money, but really, you do. Like,
you're never done learning.
It's so hard to comprehend sometimes. So I weave it into my coaching modalities, and that's why I say I'm a performance coach, because I could say I'm a health coach, could say I'm an NLP coach, could say I can't really say I'm a hypnotherapist because I'm not, but I could say I've done behavior change qualifications. So I could say I'm all of these, or a PT, right? But to say you're a performance coach, it embodies all of that into one, and I can come up with my own modalities. And I think that's the most powerful, because when you work with an individual, they're going to have different needs. There's going to be people who need a bit more of a meditative or a hypnotic protocol to get rid of that bad habit, get rid of that behavior, or change the narrative, change the story, the context that they're living in within their mind. And there's going to be people who just need the exact steps and systems to take action, and that's fine for that person.
So next question is, how does someone get to work with you? Like, where are you offering are you digital? Are you in person? A hybrid of both. But like, let's say someone's watching this right now and they're resonating. And I can imagine a lot of coaches would be, I'll tell you right now, back in the day, if I had met someone that does what you do as a PT, I would want to learn about what you do. And I would want, because I always wanted to take my business that direction, but I wasn't ready for it at that time when I was coaching. Yeah. So how do you work with, and do you work with other coaches?
I mean, I've never been asked that. I never thought about that. Never worked with other coaches. Perhaps that's something that...
As an ex-coach, I'm telling you, I would have wanted to work with a coach like you.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really, really interesting, actually. Never ever thought about that.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Maybe I'll have to bring you in on that one. But yeah, so in terms of, I work with people in person. Obviously, they have to be based in Dubai or online, or it's a hybrid. To be honest, my Dubai clients are a hybrid because just don't have the time. I don't want to look, it's a commitment as well. When people work with me, you've got to commit, because if you're going to meet me or commit to an hour or 2 hours to speak to me every week, you have to be committed and you have to want to give your time to that. So yeah, I work on a hybrid model at this point. So
where do people find you? Like right now, do you have a website? Are you building anything digital? Like, where is your digital presence?
I'm most active on LinkedIn. That's where I do most of my social media marketing. Instagram, Harri Pereira. LinkedIn, Harri Pereira. I mean, you're probably not going to be able to spell that, but I'm sure it's going to be written somewhere.
We'll put a link in the video.
Worry, I'm not even going to sit here and spell that. Like my website's all attached and everything. But those two places. But to be honest, I think the best value you can get from myself is on my podcast. That is where Joe and I, and this is where I could send you to my LinkedIn and we can work personally together. But I think that you're going to get the most amount of value going straight to my podcast, listening to a few, and then if you like our stuff, follow us on Instagram, follow us on LinkedIn, and send us a message and chat.
Love it. All right. So one more question for you. What would be your advice to coaches, PTs, anyone who wants to help other people and make a business from that? What would be your advice to someone who's just getting started and they don't know exactly their specialty, let's say, or they don't know their niche? Like, how, I guess what I'm really trying to ask is, how did you really find this niche? And did your coaching evolve? Like, did you start as something and then evolve into this, or from day one, you're like, I'm a performance coach? Like, how did that happen, and what would your advice be?
My coaching has evolved tremendously. My niche has changed massively. And actually, I don't like to specify a niche. I work with leaders, I work with entrepreneurs because I like the business aspect of coaching. But I'm listening to a lot of Dan Coe. Do you know Dan Coe?
Heard the name, I haven't followed him personally.
He's amazing, right? He's a really young guy doing unbelievable stuff, YouTube, podcast, whatever. But anyway, follow him if you want to go down that digital kind of business entrepreneurial route, right? He says that the best niche is you. The most profitable niche is you. When I used to write in my bio, I help 40 to 45-year-old male executives in a C-suite
very
role,
specific,
like lose 20, 30, like I just hated it. Every time I wrote it, I was like, I hate this. It doesn't feel right. And I stopped doing that. And there was points where I saw my business become, and obviously it was reflected in my content and what I was offering. I lost what I was offering. So sometimes it was worse and I didn't get as many clients because maybe, look, people say that in marketing, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. So there was a way that I had to try and cultivate a message and a niche without saying that icky sentence of like who you help, like exactly their life, their life story.
Exactly.
So essentially I did that, and I've got to a point now where I just work with leaders and entrepreneurs, and they're mostly men because of the type of person that I am. And I help them in these different aspects: health, mental fitness, and performance. Because essentially it's what I do. It's what I live and breathe. I live and breathe it.
I love that.
And I've only really, look, I've been doing it for the last 4 or 5 years, but I've only really realized it in the last few months. Like, this is exactly what I offer. It's just my life in a different package. Like, okay, these people are doing different stuff to me. So they're running businesses usually with a couple of hundred employees. I'm not doing that, obviously, but they want the same things as what I've got. And a lot of the time that's super easy for me to coach and market to, because I know who I'm speaking to.
I mean, that says a lot, because that's the authentic journey, and it's not hard to be you, right? When you are authentically coaching, you're like, look, this has been my experience and I'm now passing that on to you.
Yes.
It makes your business very simple, right? And very authentic. Like, you feel very, it's probably very gratifying to be able to share that with other people.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I also think, just, you asked me what my best advice would be, and it would be to, I'm a bit wary of saying this, but do what feels right. And what I mean by that is, when you market, there are 100 ways to get clients. There are 100 ways to help clients. There are 100 ways to run your business, right? I used to try and come up with the best strategy, or learn the best strategies for marketing. Do I run like a 10-day challenge? Do I run a paid advertising post? Do I do a lead form onto a booked call? Like, how do I get clients? Like, what's the best way to get clients? What's the best way to put social media content? And I've got to the point now where I'm literally like, I've realized there are so many different ways, and they're all going to work, but for different people and different businesses. So now all I do is the ones I really want to do, because that is what you're going to be best in.
I love that. Do what you love to do, because that's what you're going to be best in.
100%.
That is probably the simplest, most logical, brilliant advice I've heard. Like, that's brilliant. Wow. All right. Well, look, we're going to end it on that, because that was like a little
mic drop.
Yeah, a little mic drop gem. Thank you for that wisdom. Good. Look, it was a real pleasure, Harri. I think we should do this again. Do you have other people on your podcast, or is it like Harri and Joe?
Well, we are looking for our first guest, so maybe you're going to be that guy. You just plugged yourself. So.
Yeah, like, I'm just saying, I'm available.
100%.
That was awesome.
Let's do it.
Harri, it was a pleasure.
Good stuff, man.
Cheers.